In this tutorial, we're going to look at modelling this Lego brick. A model like this looks simple enough, but does pose some technical challenges for us to overcome. While this tutorial is aimed at beginner Blender users, it does assume you have some Blender experience. If you are completely new to Blender, I'd recommend checking out Blender Guru's donut tutorial. Right, let's get started. So let's start by adding in a reference image. So go to image and reference. Let's find my reference, which I just found online. I just typed in Lego brick orthographic and I got this image. Okay, so we want to set this up so I can see it from above. So I'm just going to set the rotation to 0. If I hit 7 on the numpad now, it's in the correct position, so a little bit set up on here. I only want it on the axis aligned, which means that when I go out of that axis, it disappears, which is quite helpful. So I'm going to also reposition this because I want to use the image in the top left corner as my guide. Zoom in a little bit. Let's try and get that more or less in the middle. Doesn't matter too much. Right, okay. So I'm just going to rename that reference as well. Spell reference, right. Okay, now I'm going to add in a plane. Okay, I want to make that plane see-through. I'll leave it like that. Okay, I'm going to scale it so it fits the image. So let's just scale it down a bit. So obviously here we're assuming that this reference is accurate. I guess it might not be, but we will model to it nonetheless. But reference is really important when modelling in Blender. It helps make sure that it's as accurate as possible. Right, okay, there we go. So now I want to add an edge loop in the middle, and an edge loop here, edge loop right there, and an edge loop there. So now we've got kind of 4 faces. Kind of for each of these, what are going to become the studs. Right, so I'm actually going to add in now 4 edge loops for each stud. Just leave them in the middle. Okay. Just using the mouse wheel to increase the amount of edge loops. Okay, excellent. Now I'm going to do the same, going in the other direction as well. Got to keep it nice and regular because we're going to use a subdivision surface later on. So we want to keep the geometry nice and even. So now I'm going to select each of these areas for the faces that are directly over the circles. Okay, so now I'm going to use the loop tool. So if you haven't got loop tools, just go into edit, preferences, search for loop tools, and just enable loop tools. Okay, then it'll be under edit, go to loop tools and click circle. Okay, and that changes your square geometry for the selected faces into a circle. So I am just going to hit the switch regular off, and that keeps it a little bit more even what we're after. Okay, so just one more change before we move on. I want to just bevel this middle, and I'll show you why a little bit later on. But just bevel it with one segment, how that'll do. So that was Control and B. Okay, cool. So for now, what I want to do with that, I'm going to Shift D to duplicate and leave it in the same position. Okay, so this is going to be our top for now, and this will become our bottom. So I'll just rename them so we know which is which. And let's go back into our top. We'll hide bottom for just a moment. Let's go back into edit mode. Right. So what I do want to do actually with this is just resize each of these circles. So again, I'm just going to select them. It's a little easier actually if I use vertex select. Just make sure that you include all the vertices in your selection. Holding down Shift. At the moment they're just a little bit bigger than I would want. So I'm going to change here from currently it's set to median points where I want individual origins, and what that will do now as I scale, it will scale each individually, so just get that a little tighter around the shape that we want. Okay, cool. So now we've still got this selected, so I'm going to come out of the top view, and if you can see actually if I just scroll out, these, that's kind of the height of the studs from the side, so that's what we're going to do now. So I'm going to go into 1, hit extrude, up on the Z, we'll just go up to about there, looks about right. Okay, cool, and there we go, that'll do for the top for now. Okay, so let's hide that and let's bring the bottom back in. Okay, so to Z. What I'm actually going to do, I think here, is just bring this down very slightly. Let's see top, so it's just below the top. There, if you look here, you can see that's the top, and that is the bottom. I think what I will need to do as well is just move the reference down a little bit, otherwise it'll be on top. Okay. Okay, so now let's work on the bottom of the geometry. It's a little bit more complicated. Okay, so what we need to do here, first of all, is let's get the smaller indents. So it's this smaller circle here. So the dotted line appears to be the underside of the brick, and that's what we're working on now. So what I'm going to just do, first of all, I'm going to select each of these. Hold down Shift again to select them all. Make sure you select all the correct vertices. Okay, and I'm just going to scale those in a little bit more. Okay, but now what I'm actually going to do, I'm going to press I to inset and then get each of those circles to be about right. Okay, lovely. Right, and what I think I will just do to just make sure we're keeping the geometry nice and even. So I'm going to select the middle face and I'm just going to scale each of those down as well. Okay, excellent. Okay, so now we've done that, what we want to do is to create the circle in the middle. Okay, so I'm just going to select each of these. It's going to be very similar to what we did before. So I've selected each of those and I'm going to hit circle again. Okay, and that creates our circle for us. I'm going to make that a little bit bigger because I want it to be the outside dotted line. So I'm just going to scale that up a little until we're more or less at the correct size. Okay, excellent. So now, really, what I want to do is I want to bring the edges in, and I want to create like little indents that you see kind of on the brick all the way around on the inside of the brick. So I've got a real brick here in front of me. It's always a good idea to have the model with you. And you can see inside there's like little indents that I want to replicate here. So we're going to work on that now. Okay, so first of all, I'm going to move these points out of the way. Just move those down a little. Down on the y-axis. Shouldn't change the geometry because we're still flat. That just moves it kind of out of the way because that's what we're going to be doing. Next, we'll do the same on the underside as well. So from this point, these two right here, this one, and this one. Let's just move those up, just kind of out of the way a little bit. Alright, that allows us then to pull this edge. I'm going to grab, press Y, and I want to go slightly beyond that dotted line, like so. Okay, so we'll do the same on the bottom. Grab slightly beyond that dotted line. Okay, excellent. So we're going to do the same kind of now, but in the x-axis to bring this edge in. So again, I'm going to find the vertices that need to move out of the way. Just move that G, X, just to grab on the X axis, pull them out of the way. See the same on the other side, just making sure that doesn't get in our way. Okay, excellent. So now I can select the whole side, G, X, and just pull that in just slightly beyond that dotted line. Okay, excellent. And let's do the same on this side too. A little bit more. Right, so now it's each of these are going to become those little indentations on the brick. So I need to select each one. So if I just select each one in turn, and then what we'll be able to do is we can scale them down together to make sure that they're all the same size. So scale, still on individual origins, so we get this nice scale, nice and small, they're only very small indentations. Okay, excellent. So now what we need to do is I want to select the whole edge. So again, pressing Shift and Alt, and it will select the whole edge for us. What I want to do is I'm going to press Extrude, I'm going to escape to cancel it and then press Scale, and scale that back out to just on that dotted line. So it's going to need scaling a little bit more on the Y axis. Okay, so there we go. What that's done, unfortunately, is it's moved each of these for us. So what I'm just going to do is I'm going to select each of them on its own side, change this back to median point, and if we now scale from the median point, it'll move it nicely back into the middle. We just do that now on each side. Okay. Ooh. Scale on the X. Okay, and then let's do the same on each of the sides here. Scale on the Y. To the middle, lovely, and the same here on this side, scale Y. Okay, brilliant, right, so now we've got everything we need, hopefully, to do the extrusions. Okay, so first of all, let's just select these are going to become our indented studs from the underside of the brick. I'm just going to select each. We'll do these ones first. Repetitive selecting here. Okay, let's just go out of here. So if we go back, we bring the top back and go to the side. We can see if I extrude up now on the Z, we can kind of go into those studs. Okay, let's remove the top again. Okay, cool. Alright, so once again now we need to select all of the parts that we want to come down. So we're going to select each of these because these are going to come down. I want to select this connecting part in the middle. Okay, all the way to the edge. Just select each face as needed. And we've got our indentations that we did a lot of preparation for. Let's make sure we get them all. I'm just going to hit N here to get rid of that side panel, we don't need that right now. Okay, cool, and then I'm going to go over to Edge Select mode and I'm also going to add into the selection. Pressing Shift and Alt to get all of the sides, and it's selected that all in one go, which is great. Okay, so now I'm going to go back to our side view by pressing 1 and we're going to extrude that down. And extrude to about here. Okay, I'm going to hit Control and 7. Now we're looking at the underside, and I just want to deselect these faces here. I think I've selected something there that I didn't want to, yes. Okay, so just make sure you deselect these faces only. Again, I've selected something there that I didn't want to. Again, so if we go into solid mode, that's going to help. Right. Okay, Control 7. Okay, now I need to go back into edge select mode as well. Let's go back to 7. I need to select the edge again. Okay, so now you may need to select each edge as you go around. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to turn off. It's easier to do this. Oh, we've selected this edge here, which we don't want. Okay, so we need to select each part of the edge now as we go around. I'm just holding Alt and Shift as I select. If you don't hold Alt and Shift, you're going to lose your existing selection. And the Alt just means it'll take the whole edge as it goes around. Okay. Make sure we got it all. I think we got it all now. Okay, lovely. So I'm going to go back into side view and we're going to do one more extrusion down on the Z, just a little bit more. Okay, cool. Right. And what that's given us then is the kind of this part on the inside connecting. Like if you look on your brick here, it doesn't go all the way down. It kind of stops 2/3 down. And that's what we've been able to get. Okay, a couple more things to do just before we add in the additional, well, where we connect it up to the top. So we need to get rid of some of these faces. So we need to get rid of this face. All these faces on the indents all the way around. If you don't do that, when we connect it back to the top in a moment, it creates all sorts of weird shading artifacts that we really don't want. Okay, these two, so just select them all, delete faces. We keep the faces at the bottom though, that's fine. Okay. Alright, cool. Lovely. So I think... no, not quite. So if we go on the underside, now we can select these faces. We need to inset these. Go back to see-through mode. We'll just insert each of these faces, match it to the inner dotted line, more or less, like so. We go to side view, we can extrude that up on the Z, all the way to the top. Lovely. Right, now we go back into solid mode, you can see now we've got our indents in the middle. Okay, cool. So what we need to do now is connect it to the top geometry. Okay, so let's go into the top, edit mode. Let's select the edge here, select Alt 4. Okay, it's really nice and easy. Extrude that down on the Z. It's more or less the same height. Okay, that looks about right. I need to go back into object mode, and what we're going to do is we're going to shift and select them both in object mode and press Ctrl J, and that joins them. So now it's one object. This called it bottom, but we can just call it brick now. It's one object. Okay, go back into edit mode. Make sure you've got nothing selected, and what we're going to do is we're going to select this edge and this edge. Go into edge and bridge edge loops, and that connects them all together. And hopefully, if we've done a good job, all of our geometry matches, and so we get a nice join. Okay, excellent. So now we've got our basic shape. It's time to add in our Subdivision Surface Modifier. Okay, so let's do that. Okay, so let's add in our subdivision surface up to 2. It goes kind of horrible. Just right click, shade auto smooth. Okay, so what we've got right now is we clearly need to do some work to create some support and edge loops to sharpen up the bits that need to be sharpened up. And basically, just looking at my brick here, everywhere is sharp except for the roundness of the studs on the top. So what I'm actually going to do here is I'm going to use a Bevel Modifier. It saves me adding lots and lots of additional geometry. The Bevel Modifier will need to be above. You can see straight away that's kind of doing a decent job. Okay, but we need to do some work with it. So I do want to use the offset type and edges, but I'm going to up my angle to about 60, and that just helps smooth because it's a little bit low and it was adding bevels. So if I put that back down, it's actually adding bevels between the geometry here, but we don't want that. So we only really need it where there's kind of a right angle. We look underneath, creates a nice effect on the roundness here too. We need to up it to 2 segments, but you can kind of see it goes very sharp immediately. And I think what's actually happening here is we are getting our clamp. So if I unclick that, we're going to get this horrible thing going on. Because what this was doing was it was just because it was kind of going, it stops all of the geometry overlapping itself. And so therefore it goes very, very sharp, but if we take that off, you can see what's really happening. So we just need to then adjust this value here. So if we go to 0.01, there we go. So we can see we get the nice bevel on all of the edges, and it saves us adding in all that additional geometry. Obviously it gives us, well, all objects in the real world have a nice bevel, and that's what we want. So what I can see underneath here is we've got some strange artifacts. Okay, can you see that? I think this is going to be an issue with the normals. So let's just go into edit mode, select everything, come into here, we can click on face orientation, you can see, yeah, the normals are flipped on the side. So with everything selected, just go into mesh, normals, recalculate outside. And that appears, if I now switch that overlay back off and we go back into object mode, that appears to have sorted out our wobbly edge issue. Okay, and that's pretty much it. We've got quite a nice looking brick. Okay, this isn't a materials tutorial, but I will just add a basic material. I'll just call it brick. Okay, so let's just open a shader editor. Okay. I'm going to just add a nice base colour here. Click on rendered mode. Okay, so my brick here is kind of a yellow colour, it's a little bit darker than that actually. Let's bring the colour down a little. There we go, gives us a nice colour. We've got these little like Lego indentations in here. I don't want to use Lego, I'll use my own logo. So let's just kind of quickly do that. So in edit mode, so I'm going to just take it back out of rendered view for a moment. Okay, so let's just select each of these. Here, we'll do this using normals instead of actually modeling it. That would require a lot of geometry to model something like that. So what we can just do is I'm going to hit U for unwrap, and then we'll go to project from view. So if I now open a UV editor window, you see we got these 4 circles. So the first thing I need to do, let's turn that up. Let's just move each of them so they're all kind of on top of each other, essentially. So I'm just going to move that. Just do this manually, it shouldn't take a moment. Stack these on top of each other, allow us to use them all as if they're one in a moment. Okay, so they're more or less on top of each other now. Let's just move that one a little bit. Right, okay. Move this to the middle. What we're going to do, so let's just very quickly, let's make a new material. We'll use brick as the basis, but we'll make sure it's a new one. We'll call it brick. Logo. Let's just assign it here. So it's just assigned it now to the geometry that I've got selected. Okay, what I'm going to do, I'm just going to bring in image texture. And the image texture will be the logo file. Now this is opened up here, so I'm just going to scale these right up. It's kind of bigger than the logo. Stick it in the middle. Right, let's just see what this looks like. We go here, go rendered view. Okay, we're not seeing anything right now, but that's because if I just do that, right, okay, so we've got a couple of problems here. We need to change this from repeat to extend. Okay, I also want to rotate these 90 degrees, so facing the correct way. Alright, lovely, and then all I'm going to do is I'm going to go add in a bump, call that into the height, normal into the normal, and let's plug that back in, and there we go. So if I let's remove the overlays there, you can see now we've got our logo on here. I think I need to hit the invert button so it's popping outwards instead of inwards. And there we go, we've got the JBoxArts logo on there. Okay, and that's us pretty much done. So let's create a quick animation so we can render this. Add an empty, like a cube. Scale that down a little bit, make it a little bigger actually. Okay, so I'm going to turn my reference off and make sure it doesn't render as well. It shouldn't do. Okay, and let's just parent the brick to the empty. Okay, so what should happen now is if I move this, move the brick around so we can just animate the empty. So what I'm going to do is we're going to keyframe, location and rotation. Let's come forward 200 frames because I want it to rotate twice. And in the Z, if we set that to 720, let's actually do that on 201. 720. Let's keyframe that. Okay, so what we'll get is our Lego brick will rotate twice around. Okay, so after the first rotation, let's do it at 100. Let's flip it on the X, 180, so it's now upside down. Let's just keyframe that. Just go back 15, set that back to 0. Okay, so you can see halfway through it'll turn over. And again, we want to keep that at 180 to about 185. Let's stick that there like that. Okay, cool. Now if we look at our rotation, you can see, flip over, okay, flip down. So what we'll do actually is I want to change the position of my empty. Let's just clear the parent. Let's just move that down so it's more in the middle. Let's go to the side view. It's more in the middle. Okay, now let's parent it. So make sure we select that last. So now, there we go, that's better. Okay, cool, right. Let's set up our camera. Let's up this to 100. Okay, view, camera to view. Let's just find a nice angle here. Let's put rendered view on just so you can see it. Okay, zoom in a little bit. Okay, just check that when it flips, you can see the underside and then back road. Okay, just want 200 frames, that's what we need. Okay, cool. And so I'm just using a very standard HDR for the lighting of the scene. It's a studio HDR, so you can set that up in your world. Okay, it looks like we're ready to hit render. So I'm going to set my output to here. Let's create a folder, put render. Just make sure that's selected. Using PNG, let's render the animation. And here is the final animation. Hope you found this tutorial helpful. If you did, please consider liking and subscribing, and I'll see you on the next one. Bye.